Hi, Bryan. Thank you for joining me today. As usual, I'm going to say I'm so excited that you're here because I always am talking to people that I enjoy talking to. So, you are sharing today with us your patient story and a little bit more about who you are. I've had the pleasure of getting to know you over the last year or so because you participate in our support groups. You run a support group of your own, and you're a great advocate for gastroparesis and for G-PACT. So, we appreciate that as well. And I will give you some time to talk about a little bit who you are, and you're starting with your gastroparesis journey, how you got here and where it started for you.
My journey started in 2021. I was in a motorcycle accident, and in that accident, it actually pushed my stomach all the way up into my chest, where it was sitting on part of my left lung and my heart. So they had to pull it back down and do a fundoplication, and they just kept saying it was a hiatal hernia. You'll be fine, and all this. But I knew right from the accident, from at least what I can remember of that part, something wasn't wrong. I've had a hiatal hernia before, and something was completely different.
Mhm.
I couldn't keep food down. I was nauseous and throwing up from pretty much that accident. Every Before that, everything was fine. I was living my life, to the fullest, enjoying being on the motorcycle, being with friends. I coached, very active, traveled. But then back to the accident. It I'm trying to think now. It's a little blur, that part, because I also
Makes sense.
had a head injury too.
Mhm.
So it was a lot of doctors after doctors and doctors and several surgeries on my stomach and other parts. But um, I had my GI doctor here. He's very good. I've been going to him for a lot of years. After the hiatal hernia repair, things got worse.
Mhm.
And the doctor who did it, he said that, he was sorry, but he had to really beat my stomach up to pull it back down, and that, things should go back to normal. It's just going to take time. There was a lot of bruising, a lot of swelling,
I can
and
imagine.
it didn't get better. And I continued to vomit and vomit. And through the vomiting and that, it came apart. So I had to have another repair to that. And it was a different type of fundoplication. And they actually had to do a thoracotomy this time and go through my
Oh,
chest. And yeah, it was
you need
really
a
rough.
bubble, my friend.
Yeah, and that made it even things more worse.
Yeah.
They went in there and stretched the ribs and went in that way, and I complained to that doctor, "Look, I'm not getting any better. What's going on?" And he threw
Mhm.
his hands up. I stayed away from the nerve completely, which at that time, I had no idea what he was talking about.
Yeah.
So, and this was probably 6 months from my accident to my second surgery. Um, and then I went to my GI doctor, and he did a scope, and he was like, "Huh, when was the last time you ate?" And I'm like, "18 hours ago." And he goes, "I can tell you, you had a hamburger with lettuce and this, because my stomach was still full."
That's crazy. Yeah.
And he goes, "I think I know what's wrong." He goes, "Let's go
Mhm.
get this test done." And it was a gastric emptying study. And it was about 3 weeks before I could get into that. And had that done. And as I was doing the test, even the technician was kind of like, saw the look on their face. And at the end of the 4 hours, they were like, "Yeah, you have 96% remaining after 4 hours." And I'm
Oof.
like, "Okay, what does that mean?" And then I got the phone call later that afternoon from my GI doctor, and he was
Mhm.
like, "Yes, you have something called gastroparesis. Come into my office next week and we'll talk about it."
Yeah, that's
So
tough.
so I went in, and the following week, and he sat down, and I've been with him for like 20 years for some like IBS stuff and
Mhm.
other things. So we have a really good relationship, and his exact words to me is, "You have gastroparesis, and I want to apologize now." He
Interesting.
goes, "Because life." your quality of life is going to be pure hell, basically.
Mhm.
I wish I could have a better way of saying this, but
Yeah.
I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do. It's out of my scope, but I will get you the help that you need.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, what's that mean? And he didn't really give me like a lot of others. He didn't give me a lot of answers except here's this pamphlet, follow this diet, stay away
Yep.
from these foods, eat the eat these foods. And I could not tolerate anything that was on the list
Mhm.
still. And then it took about another 6 months to get into a motility doctor. And they were like, they had me set up with like three doctors and a surgeon before I seen anybody. And I went to the three doctors and they were like, oh, yeah, you're going to get a G-POM. It's going to be great. So visit with the surgeon. He was like, yeah, we'll schedule you for the G-POM.
Mhm.
And he goes, but your insurance probably won't cover it, but we'll fight it.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay. A week later, yeah, your insurance ain't gonna do it. There's nothing else we can do for you. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
It's not the
You
same
said you were gonna
conversation.
right. You said you were gonna fight this for me. You said, yeah, your insurance will never do it no matter what. And
Hmm.
I'm like, well, there's got to be other options. Where do I go now? What do I do? Well, there's nothing else we can do for you. So I was kind of left in limbo for a little while. Then 3 weeks later, they were like, oh, you can have, we can try Botox.
Mhm.
And I'm like, but you said there was nothing else you can do for me. And that I go, why would I travel 2 hours when I can get that done 15 minutes from my house?
Mhm.
So my GI put me on um, erythromycin for a while. That didn't help. We tried Reglan, and that caused me to have severe anxiety and felt like I had bugs under my skin. So we're like, yeah, we're not going to do that
No.
anymore.
No.
It was bad. Yeah, I remember it was just like, no, we have to stop. It was like, I could not
Yeah.
tolerate that. And plus I had a few mental health issues with it too, that I just was, had a hard time dealing with, like a lot of
Yeah.
suicidal thoughts and all that. So they said, okay, let's try the Botox now. We did that. And I don't think it really helped much from what I
Mm.
remember. That was like 4 years ago.
Mhm.
If it helped any, I didn't think I noticed it. So then my GI doctor then, sent me over to a general surgeon. He goes, "Let's do a pyloraplasty."
Mhm.
So, I'm like, "Okay, I'll try anything. This has gotta get better," because at that time, I was, still throwing up like 10, 12 times a day. I'm having
Yeah.
trouble keeping down water, um, and the cramping, and I wasn't sleeping, and I was dehydrated by this time, and I lost like 40 pounds.
Wow.
I lost really quickly. So we did the pyloraplasty, and it seemed to make things worse. By that time, after that, I could hardly eat anything. And they just kept saying it's going to be 3 or 4 months. You got a lot of swelling.
Mhm.
Just give it time, give it time. You know, here's some nausea medicine. And of course, I'm allergic to
Everything.
Comprozine, Zofran, all the normal ones. So I can only take Phenergan. So, that and the scopamine patches.
Mhm.
So was on that medicine. But then with the pyloroplasty, I ended up becoming hypoglycemic because everything now was slow but fast at the other end. So,
Yep.
it was just, I wasn't absorbing things, which I didn't know you could become hypoglycemic with the pyloroplasty, but I'm finding out and through everything, it's a side effect or it could be a possible
Mhm.
risk factor that they don't tell you about. Um, and now, yeah, then like back and forth to doctors after that for a another year and a half or so. Um, let them telling me now that, with the pyloroplasty, it should have helped. It's stress, you're depressed, you need therapy, you should try this or antidepressant, try this. And I try to explain to people, yeah, you're gonna be depressed after being
All of that?
chronic, all of that. And,
Yeah.
and I try to explain to them, it's like, I'm not like chronically depressed or, I'm my life has been turned upside down in a blink of an eye. It's
Yeah.
not that, it was another condition or something over the years that slowly progressed that caused this where you could see it coming slowly. I was living my best life. I was on my motorcycle,
Yeah.
had the accident, and, my life literally in a blink of an eye was completely changed. I'm like, if you walked out in the hallway today and you slipped, hit your head, and you could never be a doctor again, you'd be a little depressed too,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
um,
so tough.
yeah, and, then I went to therapy, and then the first therapist was not so good at what they do. She was basically just telling me because with the other injuries and with gastroparesis, I couldn't do anything that I normally would do. I was very active, outdoor type of person, golfed a lot. I was a coach. So everything was very high paced at,
Mhm.
and a lot of activities. And I didn't have the energy. I didn't have the strength. At this
Yeah.
time, I was really weak. I had memory issues from not only the head injury, but from being dehydrated and now becoming malnourished. And, her thing was, look, during COVID, I had to stop going to orphanages and working with orphans. I had to find new hobbies. I think you can too. That was her. That was her solution for my issues. So of course I went
Wait,
and found another.
wait, what?
Yeah, and I'm like, "I don't think you're really supposed to, compare your problems and how I
No.
was visiting, doing that compared to having a chronic
Mm.
illness now,
Oh,
anything close." But, it
okay.
as and a lot of people in the community know that, unfortunately, with doctors, therapists, you know, we get gaslit so much, and
Yeah.
we get thrown to the side, we get talked down to, and I was like, "I'm not having this." And then she told
Yeah.
me I had an anger management problem, and I was like, "You'd be a little angry too. My life is
Yeah.
completely changed. I'm trying to figure this out." And then a friend of mine recommended me, a therapist locally, and he took me in, and I went to him for probably, like, 4 years,
Mhm.
and I went through, like, EMDR therapy
Mhm.
and a lot of other therapy with him to just try to figure out who I was and how to, and all the PTSD that comes along with medical and all the surgeries,
Absolutely.
and, with doctors telling you, say goodbye to your family over and over and over again. It does wear on you. And then he also diagnosed me with, medical PTSD,
Mhm.
and, you know, with the EMDR, we got that under control and everything. So, and the one thing is, when you do have a medical or a chronic illness or any kind of major injuries, everybody we focus on the physical aspect of everything.
Mhm.
And I know it doesn't get talked a lot about, especially in our community, but the mental health that comes with it. And
Yeah.
I'm saying this not as, okay, it's in our head, but
Mhm.
when your life gets changed so drastically, yeah, things, you got to try to figure out who you are. You
Mhm.
are going to be a little bit depressed at the very least. If you weren't depressed, I'd be so worried about that person.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
y- you know, and, when you don't know what you can eat, what you can drink, your personality changes a little bit, and with all that comes with that because of the malnutrition, the lack of sleep, the nightmares, whatever it
It's
comes with.
exhausting.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And so for me to get to where I am today, it took a lot of therapy. Not only traditional therapy with a counselor and EMDR, I went through series of ketamine treatments that actually helped my PTSD, my anxiety, and that guilt that you carry of being a burden to everybody, especially, when you're used to cooking and doing all the out of the house type of chores like mowing and
Yeah.
weeding and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And now you can barely just get out of bed,
Yeah.
and I lost all that guilt through that. And I learned um to really to accept through like therapy and help with with this wasn't just me, but to accept that this is a part of my life. This
Mhm.
is it's not who I am by any means, but when you have a chronic illness, the way I look at it, you can fight it and be like, this is no, no, no. I want my old life back. I want my old life back. And or you can acknowledge it, which, you know, okay, yeah, I have a chronic illness that, as simple as that, and be like, okay,
Mhm.
yep, but I am gonna be, I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna do this. And then when truly accepting it, saying, okay, I understand that I am chronically ill. There's no cure. There's, the medications, the treatments are lacking to say the least, or very effective, for a
Yeah.
lot of people.
Yeah.
Um, but accepting that this is a part of me. Now, that doesn't mean that still don't have symptoms. I doesn't mean I'm not nauseous anymore. It doesn't mean that there's some foods I'll never be able to have.
Mhm.
It's just learning and accepting these are my cards.
Yeah.
And, you know, I like playing poker, so this might help me a little bit more than a lot of people. It's like, how is the best that I'm going to be able to play these cards? And sometimes you do fake it. Sometimes you do bluff,
Yeah.
just to get through that day. But that doesn't mean I'm cured. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
I'm better. It doesn't mean anything. It just means I'm learned to live with it or coexist with it.
Mhm.
And to me, it's also kind of like a dance because, when you accept it, you know how to move with it in harmony.
Mhm.
And then, you're gonna stumble and have those bad days and flares to where, man, it's miserable again. But to me, that's learning new steps. That's when you grow the most is during those hard times.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's difficult, don't get me wrong. I still have days where I curl up in a ball and be like, why me type things, but I just don't allow
Yeah.
myself to stay there.
Yeah. I think I think that's why you and I, like, vibe so well, because we really I feel like I do so much of that too, where the acceptance part, at least from me, and it sounds like you're so similar again with this, is like, in order to find the acceptance of it, I have to allow myself to live and acknowledge the realities of the disease, right? Because if we just keep saying, like you just said, I have a chronic illness, but I'm just gonna live like my life normally, like it's not here, it's not part of me, I'm not acknowledging it. Well, it is a part of you. Like it absolutely is. And it some days will dictate what you can and cannot do. And I think, trying to find the balance between the days that you're in charge and the days that it's inevitably going to be in charge, or you're having a moment of why me and this is really bad, or you're having a flare day, like it's okay to say that that's a bad day. We don't have to be positive all the time in order to accept something. And acceptance, at least to me, I feel like is on a spectrum, right? Like it kind of comes and goes. You don't live in this space of acceptance 24/7 in the same way that we can't live in denial 24/7. You have to strike a balance between the two, and that comes with some therapy, some self-help. Maybe that's in the form of talk therapy, maybe it's EDMR, maybe it's ketamine, maybe it's different self-help books, reading from other chronic illness creators, support groups, etc. Like that can come in many different forms. And it sounds like I don't want to say like that you figured it all out because I don't want to put the pressure on you to say that you figured it all out. But from what I know about you and your story and how you are as a person, you can see your sense of growth in finding ways to live with the disease. And, I think it's really admirable with everything that you've been through. And I know you only touched some of it too. So, back to my bubble comment is you need one, but I know you've been through so much and, you're here on the other side advocating for people, being there for other people and really just doing some really great things. So I hope you always acknowledge that too.
Mm, mm,
And I'll
thank you.
remind you if you need it.
Yeah, I mean, it's taken a lot of hard work. Trust me,
Yeah.
like a lot of people ask me, well, how'd you get there? A lot of sweat, tears, frustration. My
Yeah.
neighbors probably think I probably should be locked up because I go outside and I scream, I yell, I cry. It's like this whole thing. They're probably like, what is wrong with him? We knew he was crazy from coaching in our public school system, but this dude has lost it.
At least they won't mess with
But yeah, I
you,
mean,
so
exactly, it's better to be a little bit crazy or a lot crazy than, but no, I mean, and it just takes a lot of work, and it's trial and error, it really is.
Mhm,
I've learned certain things work for me, which might
mhm,
work for you, it might work for a lot of other people, but for me, I know certain things don't. I do a lot of journaling. I
okay,
do a lot of, especially on a bad day, I will write down all those negative thoughts and all those things, and I will burn that piece of paper and do a lot of visualization with it to like, okay, now those thoughts and those feelings are out of sight, out of mind, they're
love
gone.
that.
Or I'll lock it up in a box. And once it's in that box, it doesn't come back out. It's
Mhm,
gone, it's put away forever. And, and breathing techniques and, you know, um, a lot of meditation,
mm,
meditation just to keep things down. And, now I'm practicing humming to stimulate the vagus nerve. So I'm trying different things like, like the humming stuff
mhm,
and just other, tapping and that kind of stuff to see, what it's, what's going to work, what it doesn't work. But yeah, to get though to where I'm at, like I said, I am far from knowing how, get it all figured out by means. My wife can contest to that. So, but it's a lot of work. It's ongoing work. It's not like, okay, we got it down because
mhm,
it's forever changing. What worked
yeah,
today is definitely not going to work for tomorrow. And that goes with liquids, food, whatever you have to do to reground yourself. And I
mhm,
found out for me, nature, that's my happy place. That's
yeah,
I don't know, my soul's right in nature,
mhm,
if it's going out in the woods and just sitting and listening, closing my eyes and meditating, or I'll sit by the river and just listen to the ducks quack or feed the ducks, kind of like an old man on a bench, just with my pigeons and ducks, feeding them, and then listening to the river. That I don't know, it just puts me. I don't. I always walk away from there with a smile on my face,
yeah, that's great.
and and I try now to put more good out in the world than I take,
Hmm,
and that makes me happy. And you mentioned about starting my own support group, and I can't coach anymore. So with running a support group, it's to me that's coaching. I'm saying basically the same things I would to my players, but I'm just
mhm,
using it in a different way to get people to change their way of thinking about things, or you know directing them in the right path, like to
yeah.
G-PACT and everything.